Welcome back to this real shit, you made it. You're now tuned into the underworld's favorite. I should like this artist more than this artist because they did 250,000. But you actually cover more than numbers, like as far as record sales. You do more like ESPN style numbers where it's like, you know, so it really helps give a visual if you're a numbers person of who an artist is without even, you know, if you're not really familiar with them. So what made you come up with that? First of all, excuse me, gholy.com. We got Ben Carter from Hip Hop Numbers or Hip Hop by the Numbers. I know it used to be Hip Hop by the Numbers. I guess it's just Hip Hop Numbers now.
Yeah, it's quick. It rolls off the tongue a bit better, you know. Hip hop
Okay.
numbers. It's a little,
Okay.
yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah.
I got you. So yeah, from Hip Hop Numbers. But where did you come up with this idea?
I was doing some stuff with Genius. If you know Genius, they like annotate lyrics. So they're a lyric website. And when I was like going through the lyrics, I was just noticing trends. Like obviously the game name dropping was one of the biggest ones, right? So like when I'm putting the game's lyrics into Genius, I'm like, man, this guy is name dropping a lot.
Yeah.
And I noticed a lot of people in like reviews and stuff, they were mentioning these things, you know, they were mentioning that, you know, maybe the Lil Wayne says a certain word more often than not, and using it to criticize albums a lot of the time. And I thought, well, you could actually quantify that. Like you could find out whether he said that word more on this album than the last album, or, you know, people were criticizing the game for using name dropping as a crutch. And I
Yeah.
was like, well, maybe he does it less. Maybe he's been doing it less throughout his career. And that's where it came from. To be 100% honest, like I used to work for a review website in like 2012, and I felt kind of nasty doing those reviews because I was like, I need to be backing these opinions up with something, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought if I wanted to continue to actually have an opinion on these kind of things, then I wanted to have some statistical facts to back it up. And it just grew from there.
And see, that's the weird part, right? The weird part is art is like you see a painting, it speaks to you, and then you go, oh, okay, and then you write a review. Because I do reviews on my site too, right? And I always, to be fair, right? If I give because sometimes I come up with a number straight out of my head, like from 1 to 10, I'll be like, this album is a 9. But then I go, how do I really back that up? Like you said. So I go through each track individually, right? And I give them an individual number. And then I give myself a point 0.3 to go from the number that's the average to maybe up or down with just different stuff. Like maybe it's more cohesive, so I'll do point 0.3 up. Maybe it's like, you know, I'll do point 0.3 down. But I just wanted to have something that, like you said, mathematically would make sense to why I'm actually saying these things. And then it'll be more fact based rather than people looking at me like, where's this guy pulling this from? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But do you think that like, because you know the criticism of hip hop numbers has been that you can't quantify an art form. So how do you feel about things like, you know, Pitchfork giving a review score or anyone kind of reviewing with an actual number for an album? Like, how do you feel about that?
I grew up off of that. Like, see, part of my base of what I think is good or not comes from Source Magazine, Double XL, things of that nature. So if you got a medium, I know it wasn't good. I don't really have to see too much more, you know what I'm saying? Because when I did go listen to these albums that might get a medium or they might get like a 4 out of 10, it's like, I see why. You get what I'm saying? So I feel like you can do it. You just have to have people who have a trained enough ear to be able to say these things. How you come up with who can say what, that's a different story. But I think that numbers give people a sense of because it's like, all right, some people will say something is classic. But then when they break it down, it's like anything maybe 9.3, 9.5, and that would be a classic. But then it's like 10 classics. And we got to be
Yeah.
able to separate what from what. You get what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I like the numbers. I like the numbers. Like I said, I've always been a numbers person. That was my next question for you. Like, have you always been like a math type person, like a numbers type of person? Like,
I mean, not really. Like when I went to university, I studied marketing and I failed statistical maths 4 times in a row. Like I could
stop.
not do So bad, so bad. I had this giant
That's
textbook that I
crazy.
had for 4 years straight, and it was awful. Like I never thought I was ever going to pass that subject. And then when I started doing the statistical stuff, literally like I think statistics are one of the most interesting things I've ever encountered, and I never knew that until I saw that they could be applied to this kind of thing. You know,
Yeah.
one of the first analysis I did, I'm trying to think back to exactly what it was, but I think it was like I was looking at the commercial success of different regions in the
Yeah.
US. So I was looking at like Chicago versus New York versus Atlanta versus, you know, LA. And I was trying to like track um, how many times an artist released an album, like a major artist, versus how commercially successful it was, and to like look at the like I guess because I was thinking like New York was not as commercially successful in the 2010s as it was in the 90s, and I was trying to like statistically represent that by saying that actually not as many prominent artists in New York are releasing music right now, and that's probably why they're not as commercially successful. And I did it in the end. Like I was able to do that, but the only way I could do that was through statistical analysis. And yeah, I guess I'm a bit of a nerd for it now. Like I never
Yeah.
liked it before, but I'm into it now. I love it.
And you know, it gets weird, right? Because you'll have, like, the game will change, but then all you have is these numbers from the past. For instance, I look at 50 Cent doing what, 800 and something his first week.
Yeah.
I think maybe that would have been 1.5 now. Am I tripping or like,
Well, this is the thing, man. This is the thing. I want to do this so bad. I really want to do this. I want to see what the hell happened when we went to streaming over like physical
yeah,
sales.
yeah,
Because,
because it's kind of like a mystery.
bro, Adele just did 100. She's gonna do
I saw it.
830,
I saw it.
but her last album did 3.5 million. Like, what
Yeah.
is going on there? And I think the music industry can't, they've got no idea how to properly assign streams. I really do believe that. I think they're spinning their wheels. I don't think they know how to like track consumption. And, you know, what 50 Cent did, what Eminem did, what even Snoop did with his debut album. He did at 806K.
Yeah, in 93.
93, like that was I think that was the record until like '01 or 2000 or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
So I want to work that out because I want to see what, you know, like I know I don't really like to compare artists, but I find it fascinating to think of like, you know, Uzi doing 270K first week in the streaming era. Would that be equivalent of 800K in the non-streaming era? Like, I'm
Exactly.
curious.
Like, yeah, I don't even know if it's more or less. I don't even know how to, you get what I'm saying? But what I started doing, right? How I really, really, really got in the numbers, I would feel the pulse of the streets. And I would go, okay, now let's see what they do first week. So like I started matching up. It got to the point where I could give you a first week within like maybe 5,000 of the, just because I felt the pulse. But
That's good.
nowadays it's much harder. Nowadays, like I don't know if I'm less on the pulse or if it's just more I'm just up in the air. You get what I'm saying?
Like the era that we grew up in, because I'm 33. So
Yeah.
like it's so hard now because you know we grew up on the CD era, we grew up on like the Napster, LimeWire download era. So with streams now, it's really like it's weird. Like you never really know like Summer Walker doing, what did she do, 166K or something? I had
Yeah.
no idea Summer
Yeah.
Walker was going to do that. How can you predict it nowadays?
You know what I noticed? When it was the middle between the streaming era and like CDs or just physical, Drake views. I saw the way they worded this and it was really interesting to me. They said it like he didn't do a million first week on views because he did eight something, right? But then they said, oh, 1.04 million album equivalents. At that point, they wasn't even counting streams like that. Like they should have just said Drake did a million first week. You get what I'm saying? But it was that weird space between, oh, do we even count it? Because it's streaming, right? So now I think, let's say like something like bundle packs, right? We saw the way that it affected people when they took it away.
because that's relevant. Like I want to talk on that point in a second because the Grammys just changed their rules, right? Like they changed it so that anyone who's featured on an Album of the Year nominee gets nominated. So everyone on Donda, if Donda wins, they all get the Grammy, an Album of the Year Grammy. And that was the case from like '07 to 2017, and then they changed the rules.
Oh wow.
But prior to '07, features didn't get a Grammy, and then for 10 years they did, and then for 3 years they didn't, and now they do again.
Yeah.
So like, how do we, and
Yeah.
that's the problem with music. That's the problem with music statistics. It's like an incubatory period that we're in right now. Like it's finally starting to grow out, and people are looking back and looking for markers from history, and they're not there because there's been so much chopping and changing, and no one actually sat down and said, we need to do this properly because in 30, 40, 50 years' time, people are going to be talking about this and saying, well, Beastie Boys did this and,
Yeah.
Lundy and
Yeah.
but they haven't done that. And that's the problem with comparing eras. And that's something I have to deal with a lot because a lot of the statistics track, 20, 30 years of numbers and they just don't, you can't compare eras.
And and with something like money, right? We can detect like inflation rates and go, oh, literally 800,000 now is 200,000 back then. We can literally, it's like something we can track. With that, you really can't. So
Yeah.
I get like a similar soul from you, right? So I know that people probably think you're like a numbers person, but who are you into personally? It's probably not the people with the biggest numbers, right?
In
Like
terms
just
of
your
music,
personal taste, yeah, like your personal preference of music. Maybe like five artists you really dig.
I mean, it's hard because like I love all genres of music. I don't really like country music that much. Like I will definitely listen to Johnny Cash, but I'm not a
I love
massive
the writing in country music. Like it's not my flavor like sonically, but the I think it's the most well written songs is country songs. But go ahead, I don't want to.
there's a lot of emotion in country songs. But like, like one of my favorite artists is William Basinski, right? He's this classical composer. And I like have idolized him for the last 10 years. And now that I have hip hop numbers, I can actually talk to him. Like I message him and I'm like, hey, I
Yeah,
really like your music. And he retweets me and it's crazy to me. So I wouldn't necessarily say hip hop is my most listened to genre, but with regards to hip hop, I have to say Jay-Z because like, man, Jay-Z was the first rapper I ever really listened to. Blueprint 2 was my first hip hop album.
oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, man, yeah. So,
You
but
know,
like,
Jay Z is my favorite rapper of all time.
yeah,
But not to cut you off, in 1996, now I bought my first CD, right? Mind you, Pac is also one of my favorite rappers. So I'm presented with this choice by my stepdad. Yo, you got to get the Tupac CD or you got to get the Jay Z CD. And
oof,
in 1996, it was a hard choice because I did like Jay Z. I liked his the stuff that he did with on the song with Kane and all that. Like I knew about his underground stuff, right? So I wanted to, and I like Dead President. So I wanted to do Jay, but I went with Tupac, and that was my first. It's crazy. You said I picked Pac over Jay, but Jay ended up being my favorite artist of all time. So I think we got the our favorite artists in common. Is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, that was the thing back then. Like, I didn't listen to Nas for like 5 or 6 years because of the Jay-Z thing. And so I missed out, man. I missed out on like all that early Nas stuff. Like, I didn't listen to Illmatic till like '07 or something crazy like that. And when
Yeah.
I listened to it, I'm like, wait, what? Like, I
Yeah.
really fucked up here.
Yeah.
With regards to underground stuff, like, obviously, MF Doom, Mark Homie, Griselda at the moment, Boldy,
I think Griselda is
always current.
untouchable right now for me.
They really are. Like, I think
Uh,
that the aesthetics of what they're putting out, like it's unbelievable. Like every single project is perfectly curated. Westside Gun deserves a lot of credit, like a lot more credit than I think he gets. He has crafted an image that is, and it's being picked up a lot. With the playlist I do every week, I listen to heaps of new music and heaps of underground stuff.
yeah.
And everyone either sounds like Future and Travis Scott or they sound like Griselda. So I see that
Yeah.
influence like permeating through the underground. But man, I got hundreds of artists. Honestly, there's not many artists I don't like or don't listen to be 100% honest.
But that was my next thing. Like, how do you go about curating a playlist? You was telling me about the playlist. Like, what's your how do you process?
That's hard, man. That's because when I was younger, like I wanted to discover music. Like I still love discovering music even at this age. I think it's one of the few pleasures and joys that we have in this life that is just free. Like basically now I'm considering we don't have to pay for music except for our Spotify membership. So what I want to do is make it as exhaustive as possible. I want to make sure that everything that people can discover is on that playlist and they can just come to one place and it's there. But it takes a
Yep.
long time because I've got to go through all the sources I use. I have to double check everything's actually dropping because a lot of the time people will say that something's coming out and it won't come out. It probably takes about 12 hours to do that playlist and that graphic. But I'm not very good at playlists. Are you good at creating playlists? Because
You
I
know
don't
what?
have.
I think I am because I'm just like I've always been a natural curator. If you ask me, like, what's my biggest thing as an artist? Like if I had a slider, what would I have 100 for as an artist? It'll really just be curation. Like even when I'm in the studio with my friends, they'll kind of depend on me to, curate the tape, and they just, So I think
Yeah,
I'm great at it. I actually just don't do it a lot
yeah.
because yeah, I'm just doing like a million things. So I don't want to have something that I'm halfway dedicated to. But it's something I'll get into. Like with Geoli.com has a few playlists out there that my interns have done. So yeah, if people want to check them out, they can. But digging in the digits, the podcast that you do with, I do not want to mess up anybody's name. So what's the the name of?
That's Charlie Taylor, Fifth Element UK. His name's Charlie.
Yeah, okay, yeah, right. Because when you click it, it goes to fithelement.org and things of that
Yeah.
nature. So it's digging in the digits like just numbers, or you expand it beyond like,
They used to be. It used to be. But if you notice on Hip Hop Numbers lately, I've been posting a lot of like who has the most Spotify streams or yeah, hey Charlie. And it's all
what's going on?
like it's cool content, like it's interesting content, but it's not, you can't have a podcast on that. Like it's not enough. Like so what we're doing now is we mainly do retrospectives. So we've been going back through hip hop history and just like looking at interesting acts and looking at interesting stories and narratives. And basically we did Slum Village last week and Jay Dilla obviously started in Slum Village.
Yeah.
So what I really wanted to know was, did Slum Village need Jay Dilla? Did Jay Dilla need Slum Village? And we
Wow.
just basically set about answering that question through historical facts. We went through interviews, albums, obviously, we go through every album. And in the end, I think they both needed each other. I really do. I think Slum Village definitely needed Jay Dilla, but I absolutely think Jay Dilla needed Slum Village. And so that's what the podcast is. Every week we go, into an artist and we look at the backstory and we find a narrative that hasn't been really told and we try to bring it to light. And it's been great, man. 137 episodes, the amount of knowledge I have just like going back through, like
Just from doing
listen to
research, right?
bro, listen to Farside for the first time, or really listening to Tribe, like really listening to Tribe, and then looking at the landscape of what was going on at the time. The fact that they put their debut album out in 1990 and it sounded like that,
Yes.
no, that's
Yes.
crazy.
Yes.
Like I didn't knew any of this stuff. I knew it, but I didn't really properly know it, and it's I love it. I love the podcast. I learned so much from it.
Also my favorite group of all time, even over Wu Tang. I'm sorry, every time I say that, people get up in arms about Wu Tang, but I feel like Tribe first three albums was classic, and then the fourth one wasn't bad. You get what I'm saying? And even the one they just put out, pretty dope. So I think their body of work as a
Great.
group. If you want to take Wu Tang solos and add it in, fine. But their body of work as a group, I think maybe only EPMD can maybe stand with them. For me, maybe Outkast, EPMD, but Low End Theory is my favorite album of all time.
With the
So
amount of influence that Q-Tip has is like bananas. Like every week we're doing an episode and Q-Tip just pops up. Q-Tip's everywhere.
yeah,
Q-Tip's all over Slum Village. He was all over Far Side.
yeah,
He's just So like their influence and native tongues in general is
Yeah.
they're special. Like, I agree with you with Wu-Tang because if you include all the solo members, that is a legacy that I don't think it could ever be touched. But if it was going to be touched by anyone, it would be native tongues, except they don't have bodies of work like as native tongues,
Together.
and that's the only thing I would say is different from Wu.
Now, I'm gonna ask you this because you're a numbers guy. I think I know the answer to this, so I'm gonna ask you. Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't know everybody. Who is all of the artists that cracked the million mark that are rappers first week?
Oh man, let me think through. It'll be Eminem, 50 Cent, Lil Wayne, Drake.
Yep.
I don't,
Eminem,
there's
50
no one
Cent,
else.
Lil Wayne, Drake. Yep, that's it. That's the only ones I know of. Yeah. So
Yeah,
like, you know what I noticed? Something I wanted to ask you too. Your opinion of. Don't you know how sometimes it used to be a slow burn? Like you look at like maybe like Nelly's first album, first week numbers, right? It was like
yeah,
two something, but he kept doing two something for like 10 weeks straight, right?
crazy.
And then like, or somebody like Rihanna. If you go look at Rihanna's first week numbers, her projects really get worked a lot. Like it's not like explosive out of the gate, but I don't think I see that no more. Like I think people the biggest difference with releases now is it shoots all the way up and shoot all the way down. Like what do you think is the thing that makes it do that? It wasn't like that back in the day.
I mean, I don't know if we're cherry picking here. Like Donda, Pop Smoke's album, they've all spent a lot of time in the
Top
top
smoke for
10.
sure.
Pop Smoke, so I don't know, because when I look back at the old charts, there are albums that go up and then drop off pretty quickly. I think it's probably similar to what it used to be. Like I was actually doing some research on Nelly's Sweatsuit the other day,
Yeah,
and
double album.
that wasn't like, it wasn't, no one really looks to it as this great commercial thing, but it sold over 100K for 6 weeks. Like
Yeah.
that is crazy. But then you look at some of Jay-Z's albums and they went, 450 and then 200 and then 100 and then down.
What year
And
was Sweatsuit though? Sweatsuit had to
say,
be like oh 04 or something like that.
oh 04, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so you saying maybe it is the same? Because all right, maybe I'm just talking about maybe not album. Let's say something like WAP, right?
Mm.
I've never seen a number one record do like kind of just disappear like that. Like
It is happening more. It is happening more, right? Like a couple of the Travis ones, I think Highest in the Room dropped pretty
yeah,
quick.
yeah, yeah. And it was the bundle pack come to find out, but it's still like, probably happening a little bit more. But it used to be a little more easy. Now it's kind of for me. I just see people kind of dropping off. But we live in a whole different world, so it's not even we can't even compare. Like the experience is even different. Like we used to have to literally go to a store to, what I'm saying, and that's what I like about. Well, you telling me you're 33 now. That's what I really like about it because your content. I feel like a lot of people on say YouTube, right? I watched this YouTuber. I'm not gonna say who it is, but they did a Bad Boy like documentary, like what went wrong with Bad Boy.
Mm.
Not only was everything out of context, they were saying people's names wrong. They put up Mark Curry and they showed Mark Curry from hanging with Mr. Cooper, not Bad Boy
Mhm.
Mark Curry. They was talking about Total and they put up a picture of 702. It was just
Mhm.
like it was just bad. So
Yeah.
I'm saying I like your technical approach to art because I think that's it's like an oil and water thing, but oil and water exists in certain spaces. Like they may not blend, but it's like business and art is oil and water. But we try to make
Mhm.
it so I enjoy your content because you're trying to take a technical approach to something that's not really it's like a little more abstract. You get what I'm saying? Just to make it make sense for like all the super logical people. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think it's hard these days. Like I don't know how you feel about this, but I have a feeling that like when we were younger and reading the Source and Double XL, the quality of journalism was higher because it was harder to be a
But
journalist. And nowadays, I think that there's just it's overpopulated, and a lot of people don't really care that much. Like they don't, they often I see tweets that are just wrong, or Instagram posts that are wrong, that have just the wrong numbers. Like genuinely, they're not. And
Yeah.
I DM these outlets, and they're like, they don't reply or they never delete it. And I'm just like, and it's like the bad boy thing with the YouTube thing. It's like, that's not ideal. Like, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like maybe people are lazy now. They just don't care that much.
That's why I started doing what I'm doing, honestly, because
Mm,
I saw too much bad journalism in hip hop,
mm,
honestly. Like I saw way too much not fact checking. I saw way too much just, people speaking out of their era and not doing the real homework. Like the real homework, if you really want to know, don't even Google. Ask somebody who know or who was there, because context is important. You get what I'm
mm,
saying? And they can tell you, oh no, L Cool J was the Drake of this time, or Melly Mel, or like somebody who was actually there. So yeah, I had to get in it because I just felt I started feeling disrespected. I started feeling like the culture was being disrespected so much by just you can just get in, have a voice because people will follow you, and spew anything you want. You get what
yeah.
I'm saying? And like you don't even have a background. I feel like I have a background that justifies some of the stuff I say. You get what I'm saying? Not only have I been an artist for a long time and a dope artist, according to me, if you ask me, but I've had these conversations. I've been in fist fights over Jay-Z and Biggie. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like I've been on a corner 30 deep. You get what I'm saying? I've been in every type of rap conversation situation you can have, and it's real intense. You know what I'm saying? It gets crazy sometimes. So like I think that not only am I a historian, but I got the spirit of hip hop. A lot of people is just like in it for whatever they can get out of it. You know what I mean? Like my site is totally different. I don't even play politic games. I put up with it's hot as hot. Like I reached out to you because you're a dope outlet. Now I didn't say that interview homie that do the animation just to do a name drop. I was telling you it's different things that are influencing hip hop now. I think hip hop numbers is one of them. So I just
Mm.
wanted to be just me being on a post like, yo, this is big for hip hop. Honestly, I see this going somewhere totally else, right? So that was my
Mm.
last question to you. Where do you see hip hop numbers in the near future?
Well, I mean, there's a lot that you said in there that's really important, and I want to highlight it because there's someone like Dart Adams, right, who's like an incredible journalist who has been around for like the last 20 years. He has so much knowledge, it's unbelievable. And I want people to know this. There's only so much you can learn from Google. There's only so much I can learn. I live in Sydney, like, I'm not even living in the States. And that's been the hardest thing with regards to I don't know what the right way to say it is, but like I do believe that I should have a voice, but I don't believe it should be the loudest voice. I don't believe it should be the most influential voice. I think that hip hop numbers is niche. I think it's like a cool little aside. I think it's like a nice little thing on the side that people can come in and it's a snapshot. I don't want it to say like this artist is better because they like one of the biggest things that has been going on is this Doja Cat thing where people continually like Doja Cat's not a rapper. And I'm like, Doja Cat is a rapper. She raps like 35% of Planet Her. But then they say, but she's not a hip hop artist. And I'm like, well, that's a whole other conversation that I do not feel qualified to have. And so if you want to have that conversation, hip hop numbers is not necessarily going to be the place for that because I just don't have the knowledge for that. I'm never going to be able to have I can point people in the right direction to have that conversation with the right people, but I'm not going to have it. And so I think people miss that a lot of the time. They miss that there is like just because it's on Google doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. Just
Yeah.
because and like speaking to people who have knowledge, I've learned so much that I could never have known before. I'm just like, and so that's the thing with hip hop numbers. Because it's just me, and I do have people around me that I can ask and make sure that what I'm posting is respectful and it's going to be taken the right way. And if it's not taken the right way, we can delete it and apologize and go in a different direction. But it's always going to be limited by the fact it's just me. And so I don't necessarily see it getting huge in comparison to what it is now. I would like it to stay at the level it's at, or like a little bit bigger, because I just don't feel comfortable having, on a personal level and a professional level and on every level, I don't feel comfortable having that much influence or that many people following the page. I just don't.
Right. You know why? I'm gonna tell you why I saw what I saw, right? Because like you said, it's a dope add-on, right? So if you go to some of my favorite hip hop sites besides my own is like a Hip Hop DX. I can see
Mm,
Hip Hop DX having a hip hop numbers.
yeah.
You get what I'm saying? We're going hip hop is home videos, such and such by the numbers. You get what I'm saying? So I think once you link up with one of those, whatever, you can go back to Genius, however it goes. You get what I'm saying? I think that it'd be dope. And you being from Sydney, that's
Mm.
kind of crazy. I don't know why I just would have thought you was from like here, but I know hip hop is everywhere, but yeah. I appreciate your time so much, man. Like for
All
real.
right.
I really do. Cause I,
Like,
I really, really love your platform, man. I really love everything you do. So, you got any type of parting words, anything?
uh, nah, man. Like, honestly, I appreciate you having me on. Just keep me in the loop. If you want to link up again and do something, I'm always down for it. I really appreciate, and I appreciate people like you, honestly. Like, I appreciate you don't play politics. I appreciate you're not in it to just go viral and just, post up whatever. That's the people we need. That's the people we need. So I appreciate you fully, and I'm always here. If you need anything, just reach out.
I feel that and I feel that from you. So yeah, it's been I'm Gioli from Gioli.com and love. I make sure I put all your links and all that. We'll talk. So yeah,
All right.
love. Salute, bro.
Thank
I'm
you.
about to hit you right now, as a matter of fact. All right.
Okay. All right. Peace.
All right.
Welcome back to this real shit, you made it. You're now tuned into the underworld's favorite. Left Philly, I demanded a trade. Went to the west, now it's conference calls. They see the vision. Ain't a stain on my jersey since I made it to 30. I had ops, but I was flaming them early. Look, these niggas ain't been through shit, ain't been on shit, ain't been bout shit, and ain't gonna do shit.